Hi everybody, Brian from Bear Bull Traders here. It is the weekend, September 16th, halfway through the month already. It's hard to believe 2023 is just flying by here. Anyway, this is of course the weekend video. We'll go over what happened last week. We had the CPI data that came out and a bit of a sell-off on Friday. So let's get down to it and see what happened last week, and then we'll take a look ahead what's coming down the pipe for the coming week here. Okay, so let's start out with week in review, September 11th. Last week's CPI data, we saw that inflation really isn't cooling off as much as we'd hoped. 0.6 increase month over month, 3.7 year over year. Cost of energy continued to move up with oil prices going above 90, and housing continuing to be strong, pricing strong. So again, inflation not cooling as much as everyone had expected or hoped. There is a Fed meeting coming up this week with associated rate hike announcement. Not expecting a rate hike this meeting, but there's still possibility one coming in November, one more before the end of the year. Of course, that's going to be somewhat, as they always say, data dependent. There'll be some data between now and that next meeting in November. On Friday, we had a bit of a sell-off in the markets. We had the Taiwan semi warning of delayed deliveries. A lot of people interpreted that as consumer demand weakening, and all the semi stocks took a hit on Friday. So you can see the indexes. The Dow managed to squeak out a bit of a gain over the week, but Qs were down the most. A lot of that loss was on Friday. S&P and IWM a little bit down, but pretty much flat on the week. Utilities, the sector was up the most for the week, and technology the biggest loser. I didn't name one other one because really technology stood out as the loser, and utilities stood out as the big winner here. So on the week, so those sectors up and down. Anyway, 2-year Treasury again creeping up there with inflation not cooling. 10-year same thing, crept up a little bit more. Dollar strong because of the interest rates moving up, and Bitcoin was up for the week, up about $1,000 from the under the 26,000 level where we were last week. So a bit of a pop there on Bitcoin. So before we get looking at some charts here, I as always like to take a little break today, promote my book on Amazon. There it is, Profiting as an Active Trader. I do have another book on there called How to Swing Trade, and it's also available there if you want to check it out. So rules, strategies, and routines of active stock and options trader. So let's get on and start looking at some charts here. We'll start out with the treasuries as we usually do. 2-year, again, sort of creeping up over that 5% level. Again, we seem to be toppy here. And again, some people are saying that a good place to park your money right now is treasuries, bonds. Anything that's earning over 5.5% is probably a pretty decent return. And I've got some of my money there as well. I don't know how much higher these rates are going to go, but certainly if rates do go higher, the bond funds take a hit on the capital price, the cost of the bonds. So but you're still getting the yield. So anyway, having said all that, again, we're creeping up here. It looks like we've made a high. We did have on a weekly basis, we were high back here about 3 weeks ago, but we pulled off that high. Now it looks like we are actually breaking out through this 4.3 level here on the 10-year. So again, rates look like higher for longer. Transports, again, kind of pulled back last week or a week before, and now we're kind of just chopping in a range here. We do have FedEx coming up. FedEx is a big part of the transportation ETF, but transports, and you can see here on the week, we're actually up on the week after a down week. So again, transport sort of an indication of how much economic activity is going on in the economy. So you can see here, Dow, big sell-off on the Friday, gave back most of the gains that we made on the entire week just on the Friday. And you can see here, again, just narrowing into a very sort of limited range, if you want to call it that. Again, sort of making a pennant here, which is an area that usually stocks break out from or break down from. The wisdom is that usually that breaks out in a trend, in the trend, the overall trend, which would be looking like it's up. But at this point, the best thing to do is just wait for the trend to emerge and then take your trade. So keeping an eye on this as trading moves into a very narrow range here. The Qs again sort of chopped along during the week, and then the big sell-off on Friday due to the semis primarily. So could be putting in a double top here. Again, we had some pretty decent volume on the week this week. Last week was a shortened trading week, obviously. But anyway, again, call it what you want. Double top, higher low. So you come up and then you try to break out through this prior top and you don't even get there. That's I should say in the lower high. Sorry about that. So this is actually not a very positive sign for the Q, so we may actually be heading lower. But we still look like we're just hanging on to that uptrend. So next week will be kind of a pivotal week here. SPY, same story as the Qs, gave up everything on Friday. They gained during the week. Again, lower high here. High, tried to make a new high, couldn't do it, couldn't even come back up to the previous high. And of course, this is kind of a bearish sign here. So keeping an eye on what's happening next week for sure. IWM, again, sort of range bound on the week overall. Still holding on to this 200-day moving average. Again, watching that for a breakdown below that. And again, put a narrow range on the week here, trading range here. Volatility actually popped up quite a bit here, popped up on Friday. Usually it sells off on Friday as traders close out their positions, but this Friday was different. We did end on a upbeat. The dollar still remains strong, although we were down a little bit on the Friday, but overall the week still in a solid uptrend on the dollar, which generally speaking isn't good for commodities, but oil has been bucking that trend, and noticed gold was up a little bit here, starting to break out a bit. Bitcoin, really came back this week after this sell-off. Looked like it was going to break down. It lost this 25,500 level or 26,000 level, really pulled back hard and then just came ripping back. I just feel like that's being kind of a bit of a manipulation there, but anyway, that's my opinion. So let's take a look at some things we got on watch. Starting with Apple, we had obviously a news release about the iPhone 15, and you can see here kind of a choppy session. We did sell off on the news, and which is pretty typical of what happens going into a new product launch with Apple. You get a run up. This was this big run up, I thought, going into it, because they made the announcement back here. This was the news on the China ban, that they were banning the use of China in the government, any government jobs. And then it sort of came back up into this announcement and then sold off again. But actually didn't have a bad day considering the rest of the market really, the Qs really sold off here. But this 170 level is looking like it's probably pretty solid support down here. So I think this might be a decent place to either pick up some long, or make an alert for it if it hits there, or maybe even sell some downside puts and expect some support there. Stochastics really oversold here, might be starting to take a turn to the upside, and MACD may be starting to turn back up again here on Apple. So Apple kind of looking a little bit positive. Amazon broke out last week, and then Friday happened, and we pulled back significantly. I do have a sort of an options trade on this. I've got I sold 140 puts and bought 143 calls, 144 calls, and so yeah, that's sort of it's a risk reversal. So I was hoping it would continue to go higher, but again, we had that bad day Friday, so I'm still in that position, and I'll just have to monitor that next week. Dell again, sort of sold off. It looks like 72.50. It looks like a top for now. Certainly stochastics, everything's kind of rolling over here. Momentum, it got really overbought here, as you can see with the RSI. So we're pulling back a little bit here. So 72.50 looks like solid resistance now for a possible, if you wanted to sell some calls there, that might be an opportunity to take in some premium. Here's gold. I was watching gold. Gold was fighting the trend on the dollar. It's starting to break out here. This 30 level on GDX is pretty critical by the looks of it. This is where it topped out right before, right here, bang on $30. So possible long. You can see momentum really is starting to build to the upside. Stochastics turning up here. MACD turning positive. So gold looks interesting, especially if it breaks above 30. Intel's had a really nice run. I'd look for a pullback to this sort of 37 level. This is obviously where it stalled out here and here, so prior resistance could become support. So I'd be looking at that for a possible long if we get to 37 again. Meta, I had some Meta calls that I shorted at 315 and let them expire on Friday. And I still think this sort of 315 level looks interesting, so I'll be looking at that again next week. Nvidia is really kind of breaking down here. This 440 level looks pretty important, so I'd be watching for this level to hold on Monday. And if we don't, we could be coming down here, maybe even to the 430s before we get a bounce. There's a lot of volume in this area here that where people are sitting and maybe getting nervous if we start breaking down below this 420 level. Oracle, that was another trade I did last week. I took a short on this day here on the 13th. I shorted some puts at 109 and let them expire worthless. And again, it looked like it put in a bottom right around 108, 107.30. When it started to move back up, I took the short on the puts and took in the premium at the end of the week here. Snow looks interesting to me. Snow's come back down here. We had this big pop up on the earnings. It's come back down to this 160 level, which should be support. And again, I'll be watching that next week to see if we can if this thing will hold 160 and maybe start to move up again. Tesla's been really strong, even on Friday with the day selling off here. We've had, we only lost 0.6 at the end of the day here, so looking pretty strong. Tesla 280 is definitely a resistance, and we've got this gap fill back here, probably around 255. So Tesla's still garnering a lot of favor. Energy is one I've been in for a while here, been advocating it. It's strong, but it's looking a little toppy here. So I might consider taking some of my position off here on energy. I really should have done it on Friday, but I didn't. So that's it. That's it, everybody. Okay, so let's wrap things up here. A week of September 18th. Here's your levels, current levels on the indexes. There's your support and resistance that I see there. Economic events, as I said, the big event will be the 2 p.m. Fed rate hike decision. Again, nobody's expecting a rate hike, but Powell will be speaking at 2:30, and that may be causing the markets to have some volatility when he starts to talk there. And the usual jobless claims on Thursday, some flash PMI, services and manufacturing data Friday. So a bit of a light economic calendar. And as far as earnings, again, a light earnings calendar as well. We've got Stitch Fix, AutoZone here could be interesting. KBH Homes, FedEx will be kind of one that it'll want to watch. Wednesday, the delivery business is always something that people watch for in terms of economic activity. And then we've got a few, we got Darden and on Thursday before the market opened, one of the restaurant chains. So that's about it. Pretty weak or pretty small earnings announcements here coming up this week as well. That's it, everybody. Have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you 8 o'clock as usual Monday morning. Pre-market show starting at 8 with Jared, and then going through the movers and at the open on Monday. So take care, and we'll hopefully see you Monday. Bye for now.